All right. So, when you're on a trip like this, and you are in brutal, deathly level cold, it's really important to dress accordingly and to be smart so that you can actually function in the wild and photograph the wildlife that you need to photograph. So let me talk to you about some of the layers that I wore on this trip. First of all, I had liner gloves, and I had liner gloves with tips that were cut off. I used to use this when I played the cello in the mountains. And it's nice because only the tips will freeze, but at least I can take off my outer glove and temporarily take photos and such and have the fine motor skills and kinetic touch of my fingers that I need for the camera while still trying to keep the rest of my hand nice and warm. So this is my liner glove. Outside of my liner glove, I wore like a Summit glove. Marmot is the brand that I used. Any brand would have been fine, just as long as there was quite a bit of protection from the cold. So these two together worked most of the time. In the mornings when we go out, it'd be, I don't know, anywhere from -20 to maybe -30 on the coldest days if you count the wind. And my hands would actually go numb during those mornings. During the afternoons and evenings, not so much, but in the mornings it was pretty brutal cold. On the top here, I've got a balaclava right here that I use. It goes both over my head and ears and also over my mouth when I want it. So that's a layer of protection. And then over that, I actually wear this hat. Very warm hat that goes over my ears. And so this created a lot of the warmth that I needed for my head. I have high UV protection sunglasses for the daytime. You can get sun blindness out here. It's extremely bright. Very painful if you don't have sunglasses with you. All right, upper body. So I have my outer layer that's sort of a windbreaker, and if it were to snow, and rain, any problem like that, this protects me from the elements in that regard. Then I have a Summit jacket, a down jacket that is really super warm, keeps in all the heat for me. That's layer 2. Layer 3, I was borrowing this particular coat from a friend of mine in Ethiopia. Thick, heavy, very warm. Did the job. That was layer 3. Layer 4 is coming. Layer 4 is the important layer for me. This is a vest I got in Kenya. It's got all these pockets so I can actually carry all of my batteries and keep them warm close to my body. So as my attire goes, this may have been one of the most important items that I wore. Underneath this, I have a North Face. No, it's a North Face. No, it's a VOD brand. Like a warm jacket. Then I had a turtleneck under that, and I had thermal underwear top under that. That's how many layers I wore at the top to keep me warm. I never at any point felt cool on my upper body. I was always warm, so that's fantastic. As for the lower layers, I had a thermal underwear layer that goes down across my knees. Then I have a warm, like a jogging outfit. Higher up on the legs, it's got like wool on the inside, so it's nice and warm. And then I have my hiking cover. So only 3 layers on the pants, but it kept me warm. I was not ever cold in my legs. As for socks, I wore a thinner layer sock on the bottom, and then more of a Summit sock, a thicker sock, wicking sock on the outside. My feet would get quite cold, but I found that if I wore 3 socks, it actually pushed my feet to the edge of the shoe so much that it actually got colder. So 2 socks worked the best for me. So you want to make sure that you have fantastic boots for a wildlife experience like this. These are Wolverine boots, steel toe, and warm. I have extra soles inside to buffer from the cold and also to make it more comfortable as I'm climbing the mountains. You want good grip, of course. Just a highly rated quality outdoor shoe. I did bring extra shoelaces in the event that one of these broke, and I had another pair of really strong shoelaces for the trek. So they definitely delivered and did what they needed to do for this trek. This is how I tried to protect against the cold Most of the time it worked, but you know, in the mornings, feet and hands would go completely numb, and then I had to come in for breakfast and warm myself up around 10 a.m. So on a trip like this, one of the important things is to find a way to cope with the cold. And obviously the proper gear is important, so making sure you have thermal underwear, you have all kinds of layers that you need, liner gloves, outer gloves, hats, balaclava, glasses even so you don't get sun blind or snow blindness, layers of socks, proper shoes, etc. Then you're out here, it's still cold regardless of the fact that you've got all your gear. And so one of the things that you really need to do is be focused on what you're looking for, and that gets your mind off of the cold itself. The other thing is breathing techniques. When you're this high at elevation and you are so cold, it's important to keep your breathing regular, breathe deeply, breathe controlled, don't let yourself have shallow breaths. And so these are some of the strategies that you can use to stay warm. Of course, for me, it's that lure of getting the sighting of the snow leopard, so that excitement, that adrenaline rush keeps me going and keeps me warm. The other thing too to think about is make sure you bring with you a thermos with hot water, so you can have coffee and tea and whatever, and sporadically have that during the day. So then I would say the last thing is thinking about the sighting itself. The sacrifices you make for a sighting like this are many, and it's hard for someone who's not on a trip like this to understand the amount of hours put into trekking, the amount of energy put into trekking at this elevation is really difficult, and the cold that you endure. All of this is for the sake of such a sighting. When I did wolf tracking in Belarus, it was the same kind of thing. Hours and hours, day after day, of brutal cold, being wet, and finally that opportunity to get that wolf sighting, it's worth it for sure. One thing I want to talk about for the channel is that it's changing. So Traveling Teacher now is going to be focused on the behind the scenes, taking you on location to let you see how hard it is to get a shot like this. Here I am in the Himalayan mountains. It's cold. The amount of work it's taken to get here is very difficult. So there'll be a ton of videos about this particular location, the gear I needed, the clothing I needed, the stamina, the focus, the research ahead of time to pick a trip like this. But that's the new focus of this channel, is to take you with me on the journey, not just to see the wildlife itself. I want you to see what it takes, the kinds of people I connect with, the amazing guides I meet, the amazing cultures I connect with and intersect with as I look for wildlife, and of course the wildlife itself. So sometimes it'll be tips, sometimes it'll be tricks, strategies, recommendations, or just going on location with me in this kind of a paradise, the Himalayan mountains, in the home of the snow leopard.